Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Poorboys Little Homestead. Your first time here, thank you for stopping in. Today is February the 24th, and I'm going to go ahead, since we just had this hard freeze and the ground's all wet and soft, I'm going to go ahead and start running my drip irrigation for my gardening and my raised beds and stuff. So let's get started. Alright, first what I got here, all this stuff I ordered from Drip Depot. And I've never used drip line before. So I want to go on and get this started so I can see what other pieces I'm going to need to order to do what I want to do. But I got two different timers. This here is a single port digital timer. You can set the time on it, set it what time you want it to come on and water and how long you want it to water, and it'll go off by itself. But this winter I was in Walmart and they had this little timer. It ain't no clock or nothing on it, but you can come out here and if you want to water for an hour, you just turn it for an hour, and when it gets back to an hour, it'll go off. It goes up to, look like 120 minutes. It'll water your garden. And that's gonna be the one I'm gonna be using. But first you got your filter. And what I like about this filter is you can take it apart and wash it out when it starts getting stopped up. And I'm gonna put my filter on first to my spigot. And this I'm gonna put on just so I know where to stub up out of the ground with my header pipe. And then I'll take this back off because I figure we're gonna get some more freezing weather. Next, you got a pressure regulator. I like to put on behind my filter so the water will be filtered before it goes into the regulator. That way you won't get trash into your regulator and mess it up. Then that's where I would put my timer next. And then with this Drip Depot poly tubing, you'll have your female hose in to screw onto your timer. And then what you do is it's screwed in there and it's left-handed. You leave it screwed all the way to the front. Then you stick your hose on there. Then you screw it to the right and it backs up and squeezes the hose onto the nipple. That's how they work. Took me a minute to figure that one out though. So I'm gonna have my line. So that's gonna fasten to your timer. But I'm gonna put this underground. So I'm probably gonna L down and go down in the ground. And then I'm gonna show y'all where I'm gonna run my header pipes. And then I'm gonna start digging a ditch. All right, so there's my garden, in-ground garden area. And then I got these beds in the ground and raised beds. Now all these beds out here, them will just be hand watered. I ain't gonna try to hook them up on irrigation. But what I got planned, I'm gonna run right through here, my header pipe. I'm gonna run it at an angle right to that corner. And I'm gonna stub up and there'll be a valve there. That way when I got my garden, I can run another header pipe on top of the ground this way and then run my drip tubing down my rows. Then I'm gonna run that header pipe over there and I'm gonna go between these little beds and these tall beds with a header pipe. That way I can run a 1/4 inch drip line. I have cut off valves. I can water one at a time if I want to. Or if I ain't got something planted in one, I can just turn it off on the 1/4 inch line. So that's where I'm gonna be running my header pipe today, is to the corner, across, and then down to that end. That's what I'm gonna be working on. Alright guys, I got it to the corner. That's where I'm gonna put a stub up. When I get my garden, I run a header back this way on the above ground to run my drip lines off of. But I'm gonna have it stubbed up there, and then I'm gonna have it continuing on, but I'm gonna have a valve there. So when I just want to water just the in-ground garden, I can turn that valve off going to them other raised beds, and it'll only be watering the in-ground garden. But I'm sure glad I started to do this while this is good and soft ground. Only reason I'm putting it in the ground so I can mow out here without having to worry about the lines. I ain't putting it about 6 inches deep. The first little raised bed I came to, and they send us a little tool here that you can just punch a little hole. You set it on that 1/2 inch header pipe, and you just poke a little hole in it. And then it's got these little plastic nipples, and it just sticks right in there. So I'm gonna take a short piece of this line. This is 1/4 inch. I'm gonna stick a piece on that coupler nipple. I should have done that before I stuck it in the plastic pipe. I'm gonna set that down in the ditch where I can cover it up. And I just got a pocket knife to cut this with. And I'm just stubbing this up, and they got these little bitty files. And this is all plastic, so I don't know if this is gonna be. This may just be a 1 year. Look to me like you ain't gonna be able to drain the water out of these lines, and first time you get a freeze, I can't see where this is gonna last. But I done purchased it, so I guess I'll use it this first year. So now I'm gonna leave that just stubbed up right there and backfill this line. I have to be careful with the weed eater. I'll be done got that with the weed eater. But then when it starts planting, I'll take some 1/4 inch drip lines, got little holes in it every 6 inches, some of it's every foot. And all I gotta do is stick it on right here and run it around in my bed, and then all I gotta do is turn this valve, open and close it if I don't want this bed to be watering while I'm watering something else. So that's what I'm gonna be doing at every one of these raised beds. Is that right there? So I'm gonna backfill this ditch now. And then the next step, I'm gonna have to tee in my line at the corner of my garden here. And then I can continue on digging. All right, I'm taking another break from digging. And I'm gonna put a tee right here at the corner of my garden Then I'm gonna stub up. I'm gonna stub up and I'm gonna have a valve. And then when I plant my garden, I can come off top of that valve on top of the ground with my header pipe. I figure hand tight, tight as it needs to be. I'll come back and put me some kind of little coffee can or PVC pipe or something right around this, so it won't get stepped on or run over and broke off. This is a lot of work right now, but I like the idea I can walk out here and turn my water on and I can go on and do something else and it'll go off at the time I got it set. And I figure what I'm gonna try to do is get on a rotation to where I water my in-ground garden in one day and then turn this valve off and water my raised beds the next day and not be doing them at the same time. I don't know how much water it puts out through them 1/4 inch. It's gonna be going to them raised beds. Now, as far as the header going across my garden, it's gonna be this 1/2 inch. But going down each row is gonna be the 1/4 inch with the holes in it. Some of these beds I got the 1/4 inch that you put the little tips in that lets you water out. So I don't know how I'm gonna do that yet. We'll see that when I get to that point. Here I'm gonna need a T, because I'm gonna run a 1/4 inch to this 2-foot bed to my left, 1/4 inch line to this 2-foot bed to my right, and then I'm gonna have to get the other little nipper coupler and run a little line right here with a little valve. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rig me up a fitting that at the end of gardening season I can screw on that hose, this line, open all the valves and get my air compressor out here and blow the water out of them. And if you do that where they won't freeze, then they ought to be good for several years if you don't step on them, break them, or something else. Alright guys, I'm gonna end my 1/2 inch right here. And then I'll run my 1/4 to this bed right here to my left and then on to that one since it ends right there. But when you get to the end of your line, it's got a fitting here. Just slides up on there just like the other ones does, and you screw it backwards and tighten down on it. But then it has a cap. But if you ever wanted to hook a water hose on right here, that water hose could hook on right to the end of this and continue on with your water hose if you needed to do something else with a water hose. So that's pretty neat for an end. Alright guys, so we're gonna have a recap here and then show you everything what I've done, but I want to show y'all everything up close. The 1/2 inch main line header pipe, you'll see it comes in a roll, rolled up across the front of my garden. I'm gonna show y'all that in a minute, but this is a piece of it so I can show y'all up close how all this works. Your fittings that goes on your header pipe, they unscrew, but they when you unscrew them, they turn into the right, so it's righty loosey instead of righty tighty. But anyway, you leave it all the way down and you shove your pipe up on there and make sure it's all the way up on there. Then you turn that to the right and you back it all the way out, and what it does, it tightens and smashes that down onto your pipe. That's how them work. This little piece here is the piece that I put in on the end down there that I was telling y'all. It unscrews, it's your cap. That way if later on I want to do something where I can just screw a water hose on and continue on. That's the piece on the end. These 1/4 inch lines that I run off this 1/2 inch header pipe to my raised beds, that's just a solid 1/4 inch line. And these coupler barbs, just a little straight, and then I was using T's. How they work, it comes with this little tool here, and all it does is you put it on that piece of plastic pipe and push, and it just pokes a hole. You hear it when it clicks, pokes a hole in there. I don't know if y'all can see that. But then when you put that barb on the end of your 1/4 inch line, like I said, it's kind of harder on this 1/4 inch. And you just shove it in that hole. You just punched in that 1/2 inch until it clicks, and that's it. That's in there. The other pieces I was installing at each raised bed is just a little cutoff valve. That way if I ain't got nothing growing in that bed or it don't need water, I can just close this little cutoff valve and I ain't got to worry about no water going in that bed. I used a couple of the 1/2 inch T's for my header pipe. It works just like that first one I showed you. Just slide it up on there and screw it backwards. But in the raised beds, you got 2 options. You got 1/4 inch line, and this is what's gonna be down my garden. That header pipe is gonna be left on top of the ground, which I'm gonna take it back up right now. But after I get my garden rowed up and planted, it'll stay on top of the ground, and then I can run this 1/4 inch down each row, and it's got holes every 6 inches, or you can buy it holes every 12 inches. But I'll run one of these down each row, but I won't put a cutoff valve where I attach it, because I got one big valve. So if I'm gonna water the garden, it's gonna tomatoes, they'll all be watered at one time. But you get this for these holes in it. But on my raised beds, I got an option. It's according to what I got planted in my beds. If I got lettuces, kale, radish, anything that's real thick sowed, I'm gonna use this hose with this emitter hose here. And you just make a couple of circles around inside the bed. But them little raised beds, if I plant bell pepper or got 2 squash plants in it or 2 tomato plants, you can get these emitters. These are just emitters. I think that's the proper name. Let me make sure. I call them emitters. They call them button dripper. Button dripper is what they call them on this pack, but I call them emitters. But them raised beds, I just run that 1/4 inch line up in the bed and just put one of these emitters right beside each plant, because there ain't no sense in soaking the whole bed when I want to soak around each plant. So these are the little emitters. You can get these emitters put out different amounts of water. These blue ones put out 0.5 gallons a minute, and the green ones put out 1 gallon a minute. But now that all depends on your flow rate, your pressure on your water line, and how much of this line you got run. So that's why I bought both of them. In case one don't look like it's doing good enough, I'm gonna swap it out to the other one. But let's take an overlook at everything we just did. Back up here where y'all can get a shot of everything. You see right straight in front of us right here where I'm started. And then there's my in-ground garden. Now I ain't done these raised beds, but I'm gonna do them. This one and these two and this one right here. But the ones y'all seen me do is 1, 2, 3 raised beds, 4 raised beds, the tall ones, and then the 4 short ones. But when we started at the water line, we installed a filter first. And I like this filter because you can take it off and clean it if it gets stopped up. This next little piece is a water pressure regulator, in case you have somewhere that has high pressure water, which I don't really think I needed here. And your next deal is your timer, and there's 2 different kinds. This one here, you can set it, and supposedly it sets the clock, and every day at a certain time, if you want to water 30 minutes a day every day, it'll do it on its own. This one here, you just come out here, and if you want to water for an hour, you turn it around for an hour, and you go off and leave it, and it goes off when the hour's up. And then we started our 1/2-inch header pipe with just a fitting, a female fitting that's made to screw onto a water hose. Hose in female. And we dug our ditch and we come right out here to this first little raised bed. That's where we put in the little barb, run the 1/4-inch line with the little cutoff valve. So now after I get planted, all I gotta do is put my emitter hose inside there. We came right on up and we put in a T. And we popped up by the ground and we put a 1/2-inch valve. And that's where my above ground header pipe, I just got it laying there now. But you stretch it out and you pin it down with some little wire pins to keep it tight. And then that's what each row I run my 1/4-inch emitter hose off of. And then we came right on over and we run a 1/4-inch to this raised bed with a valve. 1/4-inch to that raised bed, 1/4-inch to that raised bed, raised bed, raised bed, raised bed. And remember, we stopped right here, and this is where we put the end that you can remove and screw a water hose on. All I got to do is dig down if I want to ever hook onto it with a water hose. And we're done now. Alright guys, I come back and I made a little change, and I'm finished with all of my raised beds. So I was going to show y'all the change here. Over here where I put the water valve in at the garden, that'll be where my header goes across the garden. I got it inside a little pipe. But then I installed another valve, and I got a pipe you have to reach down in here to turn it on. I don't know if you can see that. But that way, all of them raised beds behind me, that way, instead of having to turn every little valve off, I can just turn this 1/2-inch valve. When I want to water all them, I can close this 1/2-inch valve going to the garden, open this 1/2-inch valve and water them. Now these raised beds right here, there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That one sitting on the stump there, that's covered up, it's got strawberries in it. Now them I had to close individual. I didn't have I didn't have enough valves to do that. But anyway, hope this helps somebody out and gives y'all some ideas. Like I said, all this comes from Drip Depot. Wasn't very expensive. Little work putting it in, but it'll be nice when it comes to water, and all I gotta do is just turn the water on, walk off, do other stuff. But thanks for watching. Have a blessed day. Thank you.